Some teams at this World Cup aren't just playing 11 guys in a different jersey, they're playing physics. One stadium sits over 7,000 feet in the sky, and it might be quietly deciding matches before a single ball is even kicked. No conspiracy, no cheating scandal, just air. Actual, invisible air. And it might be the most unfair advantage nobody's talking about. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll never watch a match in Mexico City the same way again. Let's start simple. Mexico City sits about 7,350 feet above sea level. To put that in perspective, that's higher than some ski resorts in the Alps. Most World Cup stadiums this year sit basically at sea level. So when a team flies from, say, Miami or Vancouver into Mexico City, they're not just changing time zones. They're changing the actual air they breathe, thinner air, less oxygen packed into every single breath. And in a sport where you're expected to sprint on and off for 90 straight minutes, that is not a small detail. That's the entire game quietly shifting underneath everyone's cleats. So why does this actually matter on the field? Here's the science, made painless. Your muscles need oxygen to keep contracting and producing energy. At altitude, your body physically cannot deliver oxygen as efficiently as it can at sea level. Translation, players fatigue faster, legs get heavy earlier than usual. Sprints get shorter and less explosive as the match goes on. And here's the part most people never think about. Your brain needs oxygen too. So decision-making slows down right when a match is at its most chaotic and intense. That last-minute pass that should have been easy, suddenly it's a beat too late. But it's not just the players struggling. The ball itself behaves differently up there. Thinner air means less resistance, so the ball travels faster and farther than players expect. Long passes stretch further than intended. Shots dip less on their way to goal. Even experienced goalkeepers who've never played at altitude can completely misjudge a strike because their brain has spent years calibrated to how a ball moves at sea level. Same sport, same rules, different physics running the show. Here's where it gets genuinely unfair. In theory, every team faces the exact same conditions once they land. In practice, some teams basically show up with a cheat code already installed. Mexico's national team trains at altitude constantly because, well, that's just home for them. Several South American squads are in a similar boat, thanks to cities like La Paz in Bolivia and Bogotá in Colombia, both sitting even higher than Mexico City. For these teams, thin air isn't a challenge. It's just Tuesday. Meanwhile, a team from the Netherlands, England, or Japan can land 2 or 3 days before kickoff and feel like they're running a marathon with a plastic bag over their face. And it gets sneakier than just where a team is from. Sports scientists have known for decades that even 1 or 2 weeks of proper altitude prep meaningfully changes a player's performance. So now, elite teams treat altitude like a hidden training camp nobody sees on TV. Some squads sleep in altitude simulation tents back home for weeks before the tournament even starts, quietly tricking their bodies into adapting early. Nobody's technically cheating here. There's no rule against training smart. But let's be honest, nobody's starting this race from the same line either. And this isn't just some theory sitting in a science textbook. Watch any match actually played in Mexico City this tournament, and you'll see it happen live right in front of you. A team looks sharp, fast, and dangerous for the first 50 or 60 minutes. Then suddenly, without warning, they're a full step slower. Passes start missing their target. Players are bent over gasping between sprints they used to make easily. Meanwhile, the other side, often one more used to the altitude, is still finishing the match at full speed, still winning 50-50 balls, still pressing like it's minute 1. Commentators love calling this a drop in intensity or fatigue. Half the time, what they're actually watching is oxygen deprivation playing out in real time, live on camera, and almost nobody in the broadcast booth is naming it. So let's zoom all the way out. Nobody here is breaking a rule. This isn't doping, this isn't sabotage, this isn't some shady FIFA conspiracy. It's just geography doing what geography naturally does. But when one team shows up with lungs already adapted, cardiovascular systems already trained for thin air, and the other team is gasping for breath by the 60-minute mark, it sure doesn't feel like a fair fight, even if it's technically a legal one. Altitude isn't cheating in the traditional sense, but it is an opponent every single team has to face, and it's already on the field working against certain teams before kickoff even happens. So next time you're watching a match in Mexico City and a team suddenly looks completely gassed out of nowhere in the second half, you'll know exactly what's actually happening. It's not bad fitness, it's the air itself, which raises a genuinely interesting question. If altitude can quietly tilt a match this much, should major tournaments even be allowed to host games at extreme elevation in the first place? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if this made the World Cup make a little more sense, go ahead and subscribe. I break down the confusing parts of sports so you don't have to.